The Nightly Business Report, produced in association with Reuters, the world's largest electronic publisher. Made possible by Digital Equipment Corporation, offering complete computing solutions to give every desk a window into your entire organization. By Kidder Peabody, one of the world's major investment firms, and GE Capital, providing business with comprehensive financing. Two companies of GE Financial Services. By A.G. Edwards, members of the New York Stock Exchange, serving individuals and businesses through more than 340 locations. A.G. Edwards, investments since 1887. And by contributors to public television.
Good evening, everyone. Peter Ueberroth today persisted in his effort to wrap up the necessary approvals for his deal to buy Eastern Airlines. Under the terms of the deal, Ueberroth still needs to get go-aheads from Eastern's unions and a bankruptcy judge. And as correspondent Scott Gervey reports, it's still close, but no cigar.
The scene shifted back to bankruptcy court in New York as Peter Ueberroth and the other principals began a marathon bargaining session designed to produce an agreement that would finalize Ueberroth's purchase of Eastern from Texas Air and get the planes flying again. Ueberroth and his advisors, as well as leaders of the Eastern Airline pilots, flight attendants, and machinists, huddled in the halls and the chambers of Judge Burton Liflin, who at one point made popcorn for the group. Under a gag order, no one was talking today. Adding to the pressure was a Miami district judge who was set to rule on Eastern's request that the pilots be ordered back to work. Judge Edward Davis agreed to delay his ruling at least until tomorrow. Over the weekend in California, Ueberroth said cooperation of Eastern employees was an essential element to his plan to purchase the airline.
Either have the employees or you don't do the deal. Employees have to believe in themselves or you don't go forward. That's essential. Without that, there's nothing. There's absolutely flat nothing. And I'll be back being unemployed.
Ueberroth was in California to meet with his investment banker, Fred Joseph, chief executive of Drexel Burnham Lambert, which has agreed to take an equity stake in the new Eastern and provide bridge financing. Ueberroth also said Drexel's embattled junk bond chief, Mike Milken, helped with advice on structuring the deal.
Drexel is an incredible firm that believes in people-oriented businesses, and they've done that time and time again. And Fred Joseph, Peter Ackerman, the people that lead that are exceptional people. So that's Drexel, and we hope they're retained by Texas Air, and we hope that all that works out. Mike, as a private citizen, obviously well-publicized private citizen, offered some advice by telephone at a critical time that was very helpful, and I don't think that I can avoid saying that, nor would I want to.
The talks continue with all parties facing a midnight deadline. But Judge Liflin, who is supervising the talks, set that deadline, and he can change it. In New York, Scott Gervey for the Nightly Business Report.
And to update that story, talks between Ueberroth and the Eastern unions have broken off for the night and are to resume tomorrow. An attorney for Texas Air says the talks have not hit a snag, but adds that there's a lot left to be accomplished.
Gulf and Western today announced plans to sell its financial services unit and focus itself exclusively on the communications business. In line with the move, the New York-based conglomerate will also change its name to Paramount Communications after its Paramount Pictures subsidiary. Since Chairman Martin Davis took control of Gulf and Western in 1982, he has divested many of the company's non-media activities. And the restructured company will derive about half of its revenues from entertainment and half from publishing. With me to talk about G&W's latest divestment is Reuters correspondent Cal Minkowski. Cal, as I see it, there's a certain amount of risk to this. Associates accounted for almost 50% of G&W's profits last year, movies being the risky business that they are. How do you think shareholders will react?
Jim, every analyst that I've spoken to on Wall Street today thinks that ultimately this could work out well for shareholders because as a pure entertainment publishing company, the value of the company would be higher in the eyes of Wall Street than a mixed company with entertainment and a consumer finance company.
Now, the man behind this, Martin Davis, tell us a little bit about what this man is like.
Well, in the 6 years since his predecessor, Charlie Bluhdorn, died, Martin Davis has done a tremendous amount of restructuring and dismantling of the old Gulf and Western conglomerate. He cut it in half once, built it up a little bit. Now he's proposing to cut it in half again.
Yeah, there's some talk that he might even make a bid for the Time and break up the Time Warner deal. Is that, how true are those rumors?
Well, by selling the associates and raising maybe $5 billion, that's the guessing game. What will he do with the money? He wants to expand in communications. Gulf and Western today would not tell us what acquisitions they have under consideration, but Time and or Warner, one of the things being speculated upon today on Wall Street.
Yeah, now tell us about associates, because there's some rumors there also that associates will be sold to a foreign concern, possibly Japanese.
Well, they're hoping to raise between $3 billion and perhaps $5 billion by selling the associates. If a foreign buyer is able to come in and offer more, undoubtedly the deal would be struck with a foreign buyer. They mentioned today some Japanese companies might be interested.
All right, Kel, thanks very much for talking with us. I've been speaking with Reuters correspondent Kel Mankowski in New York.
Stock prices edged higher on the opening this morning in an extension of last Friday's upturn, which lifted the Dow Jones Industrial Average to a closing gain of almost 13 points. While the technology and auto groups continued the modest improvement displayed Friday after sharp recent losses, today's early standouts were the media and entertainment issues following Gulf and Western's announcement over the weekend that it would sell its big finance unit, Associates First Capital, and traders, as you heard, speculated the proceeds, perhaps as much as $5 billion, would be used for the acquisitions in the media or entertainment stocks. At 10 a.m., the industrial average rose a bit over 4 3/4 points, but gainers established just a narrow 6-5 lead over losers, and volume on the rally was unimpressive. Add to this rather disappointing technical performance the fact that neither the bond market nor the dollar gathered any strength, and it wasn't surprising to see the early advance in stocks slowly deteriorate over the midday hours. By 2 p.m., the industrial average fell to a 2-point loss, and decliners took that 7-6 lead away from gainers. Over the next hour, the Dow dipped to over a 5-point loss, but when selling activity dried up markedly, the market staged a final hour partial recovery, which cut the closing loss in the Dow Industrial Average to only 2.93, putting it at 2,301.87. Theoretical high of the day, just above 23.16, the low down around 22.93 and a fraction. Trading volume of very soporific 124 million shares, well down from Friday's sleepy pace, and up volume did exceed down volume by about 8 million shares. The Dow Transport Index off nearly 3 1/4 points, utilities down 0.89, the Dow 65 fell just over 2 points, and the closing took a practically neutral -70. Standard & Poor's 500 off just a small fraction, a little fractional gain in the 400, but nearly a little over a 1/4 point loss in the 100. The Commodity Research Bureau May index was up 2 points exactly. New York Stock Exchange Index down 0.04, gain of 0.03 in the value line, and the Wilshire 5000 gain just, almost 1 1/4 points. Bond prices showed little movement today in the absence of any major reports on the economy or any strong opinions from respected analysts as to where interest rates are headed. Uncertainty and caution were the bywords as traders moved to the sidelines to await this Friday's reports on March producer prices and, of course, February's trade deficit. For all practical purposes, bonds in the tax-free corporate and government sectors ended unchanged from last Friday's closing levels in very quiet trading. No change at all on the 30-year Treasury. Shearson-Lehman Long Treasury Bond Index, absolutely no change. And Fed funds closed exactly where they were at the close Friday at 9 13/16. Kind of a dull day for bonds. I'll be back shortly to show you where the action was on Wall Street today.
On the precious metals markets, gold rebounded to a firm close on technical buying. Silver rallied while platinum slid. The dollar closed mixed in slow trading as dealers awaited release of several U.S. economic indicators on Friday. The pound edged higher against the greenback. And oil prices jumped 57 cents a barrel in New York on strength in crude futures and anticipation of a decline in industry-reported reserves. Prices also rose in earlier London trading.
Japanese Prime Minister Noboru Takeshita says he does not plan to resign. Takeshita is under increasing fire because of new reports linking him to a firm involved in an insider trading scandal. And as Spencer Sherman reports from Tokyo, the Japanese financial markets are anxiously awaiting the next shoe to drop.
Prime Minister Noboru Takeshita is scheduled to appear in Parliament tomorrow to explain his role in a widening influence peddling scandal rocking his government. Reports surfaced last week that Takeshita received up to $760,000 in possibly illegal donations from the Recruit Company, the same company that attempted to buy influence from dozens of other politicians with unlisted stock deals. Uncertainty over Takeshita's future kept traders on the sidelines at the Tokyo Stock Exchange today, and the 225 stock Nikkei average fell 186.03, closing at 32,999.02 yen. The market lost nearly all of the 189.27 points it gained Friday, before the news of Takeshita's latest problems surfaced. The dollar began the trading week in Tokyo higher, ending the day at 132.53, 0.45 yen up over Friday's close. But currency dealers said the dollar traded in an unusually narrow range on the fear of possible intervention by central banks and worries over the future of the present government. In Tokyo, this is Spencer Sherman for the Nightly Business Report.
In Washington, congressional and White House negotiators say that they're close to an agreement on a new federal budget plan. The word came after a series of closed-door meetings today, and while the negotiators declined to give much in the way of details, Congressman Bill Frenzel said that the final deal will not be a patched-together formula to get by Graham-Rudman deficit limits.
I'd hate to characterize it as a patched-together agreement. It's been called a slide-by agreement, but I think it is fair to say that 1990 was thought to be an easier task than 1991. And when we're done with this one, we will not have made our task any easier for next year.
Now, with or without a budget agreement, Congress is under pressure to begin setting spending guidelines for federal programs. Work on actual spending bills is to get underway in the next month.
Exxon today threw cold water on President Bush's offer to send troops to help in the cleanup of the firm's giant oil spill in Alaska. Instead, the company promised to hire 500 new workers to join in the cleanup effort, in addition to the 300 already at work. However, with weather continuing to impede Exxon's efforts, the Defense Department continued to increase its role in the cleanup, ordering 6 more Coast Guard cutters to Alaska.
The parent of the Grand Union supermarket chain, GU Acquisition Corporation, has been sold in a management-led buyout worth $1.2 billion. Financing for the deal will be provided by Solomon Brothers. Grand Union operates in 7 northeastern states and Georgia and has annual sales of approximately $2.7 billion.
That's probably more money than changed hands in the bond market today, but there was some action in stocks. Let's have a look at the closing Dow, off 2.93 after moving in a narrow range. A few more issues up than down, 713 to 683, 81 new highs for the year and only 24 new lows. Topping the active list on 3.3 million shares, Exxon down 3/4. The Wall Street Journal had an article today saying that Exxon's insurance may not cover all of the damage up there on that horrible Alaskan oil spill. SmithKline Beckman down 1 5/8. Reuters reports that the merger or partial merger between SmithKline and Beecham Group may be completed by the end of the week, and a lot of traders are disappointed no third-party suitor has come along. Campbell Soup, a big day on the upside, rising 4 7/8. Over the weekend, its former chairman, John Dorrance, passed away, and his interests control 58% of the firm. None of the other family members, or not very many of them, are involved in active management, and so this opens speculation to the fact the company could be vulnerable to a takeover. Public Service of Colorado edged up 1/8. It was trading ex-dividend 50 cents a share today. Silicon Systems up 1 3/4. The company has accepted TDK's $20 a share buyout bid. Ensearch rose 7/8. The company says it's made an exploratory oil discovery in the Gulf of Mexico. No change in Union Carbide. Ramada Inn up 3/8. And there you see Gulf and Western rising 2 3/8 after the company said it intends to sell its finance unit. Texaco was unchanged 10th in big board volume. Among widely held issues, CBS rising 4 1/8. The company reported a 26% increase in first quarter earnings to $2.19, and it's also speculated it could be the target of Gulf and Western. General Motors, not much movement there, down 1/8. IBM up 1/8. ITT receiving favorable comment in the lead article in this week's Barron's Financial, up 5/8. Primerica, subject of negative comments in the Herd on the Street column in today's Wall Street Journal, down 5/8. And then NWA down a point after the close Friday. The company rejected Marvin Davis's $90 share buyout bid. And Time up 2 1/8 because Martin Davis, not to be confused with Marvin, they're not related except for they have a lot of money, up 2 1/8 points on Time. It may become the possible takeover of a buyout bid from Gulf and Western. Scotty's Incorporated, the big percentage gainer of the day, up 2 3/4. GIB Holdings, which already has 43% of the stock, is bidding $15 cash for the rest. Gordon Jewelry, a sterling performance, up 5 1/2 points. The company said it's studying its options, including the possible sale, buyback, or recapitalization of the firm. Tribune Company, there's another one of those potential takeover candidates if Gulf and Western sells its finance unit successfully, up 1 1/4. American Building Maintenance tumbling 5 1/2 points. The company said the talks to sell out to an unnamed firm have terminated, mainly because 2 shareholders controlling 30% did not like the way things were going. Citizens and Southern off 1 1/4. The company said it has no plans to negotiate its sale to NCNB and said there are a lot of regulatory hurdles in the way anyway. Tucson Electric Power up down 1 1/8, I should say. There's fear that the company may have to cut its dividend if it doesn't get a rate increase, and the hearing on that is set for a week from today. Over in the American Exchange, a gain of 0.81 on the market value index. Trading volume is up nearly 3 million shares from Friday's pace, but a few more issues lower than higher. New World Entertainment on nearly 1 million shares topped the active list with a huge percentage gain, rising 2.5 points. The company has okayed a $8.95 buyout bid from the Andrew Group. Fruit of the loom down 1/4, no change in Houston Oil. Magma Copper was up 1/2, 5th in volume. The Fur Vault edging up 1/8. Sotheby's Holdings A stock up 2 3/4. The company linked the strength to the fact that the Impressionist painting sale or auction that occurred early in the month was much better than expected. Prices received were 50% above estimates. And finally, New Mexico and Arizona land down 1 1/8. It was strong late last week on takeover talk. NASDAQ trading a gain of 0.43 in the composite index, but volume under 110 million shares, well down from Friday's pace. About 9 stocks up for every 10 down. The 100 index gained exactly 1 3/4 points. Topping the active list, MCI Communications down 1/8, followed by Apple Computer down 3/8, and then Intel edged up 1/8. Seagate Technology gained 1/4. Lynn Broadcasting up 7/8. Telecommunications A good gainer up 1 3/8. Manufacturers National fell 1/8. Amgen was down 1 3/4. Negative comments in an article in this week's Barron's Financial magazine. Ogilvy Group gained 1/2. U.S. Trust 10th in NASDAQ volume showed no change. Fisher Scientific Group rising 2 1/8 points. The company said that it has received inquiries about selling several of its units, including its instrumentation group. Old Kent Financial moved up 1 1/8. The company is aware of rumors that Bank One is eyeing it as a takeover. Some analysts think it's a $40 a share breakup. MTS Systems falling 1 5/8. The company says it's going to have lower second quarter earnings, largely due to some cost overruns. And that's our Wall Street wrap-up. Linda?
Thanks, Paul. Well, Ford Motor Company today helped fuel industry speculation that Alan Gilmore is the likely successor to its chairman, Donald Peterson, who is expected to retire in 1991. The number 2 automaker today named Gilmore to be its Executive Vice President of Corporate Staff, a newly created position which will report directly to Peterson. Gilmore, who until now headed Ford's international operations, will also join the office of the Chief Executive.
In business notes, Formica Corporation has rejected a sweetened $18.75 a share offer by management-led FM Acquisition Corporation. The offer expired at 8 a.m. today. Formica says that it has received inquiries from at least 15 other parties, including one unnamed company that has expressed interest in making a $20 a share offer.
Coming up, guest commentator William Donahue looks at the benefits of investing in money market mutual funds.
From the offices of Piper Jaffray and Hopwood in Minneapolis, I'm Tony Gill. Stocks for the parent company of Northwest Airline, NWA Inc., fell a point in today's trading, closing at 87 3/4. Honeywell, a rumored takeover target in Minnesota, traded down a fraction, closing at 7 3/8. In the latest issue of Fortune 500, which ranks the nation's largest corporations, 3M ranked 34th in 1988, up from 37 the year before. Cray Research ranked 8th among 10 Fortune 500 companies with the highest return on sales. And Honeywell ranked 4th among 5 major corporations with the heaviest losses for 1988, having lost $434.9 million. Minneapolis is receiving all kinds of attention because of the plastics ban debate. Business Week magazine says Councilman Steve Kramer's proposed ban is the nation's most stringent. It's supposed to have many in the food and plastics industry plenty worried, since the idea could catch on nationally as municipalities across the country struggle with solid waste disposal. The ban calls for elimination of all food packaging in grocery stores and restaurants that is not biodegradable, returnable, or collectible for recycling. Walgreens is opening 2 more stores in the Twin Cities. The new drugstores will operate at Lindale Avenue South in Minneapolis and on Snelling Avenue in St. Paul. Currently, Walgreens has 33 stores in the Twin Cities. From the offices of Piper Jaffray and Hopwood, I'm Tony Gill for the Nightly Business Report. Now back to the National Desk.
Interest rates slid to their lowest levels in a month at today's Treasury bill auction. The average discount rate on 3-month bills fell to 8.71%, while the average discount on 6-month bills fell to 8.78%. The Bank Rate Monitor reports as of last Wednesday, major banks paid an average of 8.93% on their 6-month certificates, while savings institutions paid an average of 9.11%.
One way investors are trying to play current interest rate yields is through money market mutual funds. Well, in tonight's commentary, William Donahue, author of the Donahue Strategy, says that those funds may be the answer to many investors' needs.
You know, the conventional wisdom is that to get a higher rate of return, you must take more risk. In today's money markets, that's not true, and in the last 10 weeks, $25 billion of people's money have learned that and have come into money market mutual funds, which are offering 2 to 3 full percentage points higher returns than the bank money market deposit accounts. Now, what the investor's looking for is safety, liquidity, and yield. The safety of money market mutual funds is very important to many people because they are not insured. However, no one has ever lost money in a money market mutual fund, and no money fund has ever invested in any investment that did not pay off at maturity. That's a very safe track record and a track record that many banks would envy. Liquidity, you can get at your money anytime you want to, and that's really an advantage because people think about keeping their money in a savings account for an emergency, but name me one emergency when you will not use a credit card, or when the bank will be open for that matter. And then yield is important, because most people who are investing in money market mutual funds, this is their savings. This is the money that they're either living off of or that they're counting on for their retirement. You can earn 2 or 3 full percentage points, in fact, over 10% in many cases, in a money market mutual fund. And as I say, no one has ever lost money in a money market mutual fund. And $25 billion has moved in the last, last 10 weeks. That's a tremendous amount of people who have finally woken up to the fact that money market mutual funds really are the shining example of what the low-cost provider of savings accounts ought to be doing. Maybe banks will start cutting their overhead and paying more competitive yields, but for now, money market mutual funds are the answer for you. I'm Bill Donahue.
Recapping tonight's top stories, talks between Peter Ueberroth and Eastern Airlines unions have yet to achieve a breakthrough.
There's no breakthrough on the up or downside on Wall Street as the Dow Jones Industrial Average loses less than 3 points to close at 2,301.87.
And looking ahead to tomorrow, our Money File segment will look at the tax status of individual retirement accounts. But first, Paul has the last word.
In business nationwide, telephone conversations are increasingly making way for hard copy as the fax machine becomes more and more popular. And as Dan Gifford tells us from Houston, Texas, faxes are popping up in some very unlikely places.
We've all heard it before. If we're going to compete, we've got to become more efficient. Examples are all around us.
Most fast food places only serve eats. Many disc jockeys have to answer the phone and actually write down song requests.
And worst of all, drivers going to and from work. They're sitting around with simply too much leisure time on their hands.
That's not efficient. But what if they all had a fax machine in their car? Efficient? Alan Hughes sells the machines. He says phones used to be enough, but today people want hard copy. Maybe that's why this McDonald's takes fax orders. Small chance of mistaking a Big Mac with a chicken sandwich this way.
I think the fax machine is what brought us in.
The fax machine?
The fax machine. Everybody's got to have a fax nowadays.
Oh, and don't forget to grab a Wall Street Journal, watch your stocks, and maybe do a little phone business, too.
When that's the type of business you do, you have to make as good a time that you can.
Yep, that's efficiency.
Try the traffic.
The Texas Rock and Roll Authority, 101 KLOL, Houston.
Feel free to use our 101 KLOL fax machine, 526-716, and you'll be in touch with us at the speed of light. Yeah, baby. We are the...
This is simpler. I'm devastated by the amount of stores, companies, and people at home who have them.
I've wondered about that myself. There's times when between your cellular phone, your portable fax machine, your at-home fax machine, your answering machines, your pocket data banks, you have a valid point. I don't know how you get away from it sometimes.
Maybe Grandpa had a good thing going after all. In Houston, Dan Gifford for the Nightly Business Report.
Well, just as in the main body of the program, here in the Last Word segment, we like to give you the facts and nothing but the facts.
And I think we did tonight. That's it for this edition of the Nightly Business Report for Monday, April 10th.
Now for Linda, Paul, and all of us on the Nightly Business Report, I'm Jim Wicks. Good night.
The Nightly Business Report is made possible by A.G. Edwards, providing financial services through more than 340 locations. A.G. Edwards, a century-old tradition of putting the customer first. By Kidder Peabody, one of the world's major investment firms. And GE Capital, providing business with comprehensive financing. Two companies of GE Financial Services. By Digital Equipment Corporation, offering complete computing solutions to give every desk a window into your entire organization. And by contributors to public television. Reuters, the world's largest electronic publisher, provides the Nightly Business Report with news, market data, and communication services worldwide. For a transcript of this program, please send $4 check or money order to NBR Transcripts, WPBT, P.O. Box 2, Miami, Florida 33261-0002. Please include the date of the broadcast.
Major funding for the Nightly Business Report is provided by Piper Jaffray and Hopwood Incorporated, where understanding you comes first. Additional funding is provided by First Banks, members First Bank System, the nation's 21st largest bank holding company. Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine, enlightening, lively, colorful. Roadrunner Transportation Incorporated, the driving force behind Twin City business since 1978. And by 3M and its subsidiary Eastern Heights State Bank. It pays to check with the Heights first.
We need new books. We're using books from years ago.
I'm Roger Mudd. Join me for our 5-part series, Learning in America, as we take a hard look at what may be the toughest problem facing America today.
Tonight at 8, here on Channel 2.
Tonight's broadcast schedule is brought to you in part by 3M, makers of Post-it brand self-stick removable notes. Hirschfield's Decorating Centers, offering paints, wall coverings, and window fashions at 9 Twin City stores. Deluxe Corporation, serving the financial payments industry for over 70 years. The Bayport Foundation, supported by Anderson Corporation, manufacturers of Permashield brand windows and patio doors, and by the members of Channel 2.
You're watching KTCA TV, Channel 2.